to the October 2023 edition of the Inside Nutley podcast. I'm your host, Tom Greco, and today we are going to talk with Academy Award nominee and Emmy Award winning set decorator and Nutley High School class of 1984 graduate, Rena DeAngelo. Welcome, Rena.
Hi.
I want to start by saying that I think you may be the only Nutley native to be nominated for an Academy Award. Your first nomination came in 2016 for the film Bridge of Spies. Tell me about that experience.
It was surreal. It was my first film working with Steven Spielberg and Adam Stockhausen, who was the production designer. And to get nominated for an Oscar was something I always dreamed of, but didn't think it was ever going to actually happen. And when it did, it was one of the funnest mornings of my career, because it was the first time it happened. It's unexpected, and then the phone starts ringing, and you're getting calls all day with people congratulating you, and then you're preparing to go, and then you go to the Oscars, and you're on the red carpet with, that you've been watching since, I'd been watching since I was, 5 years old, and I was standing there watching it happen live and in person, so it was fun.
Tell me about when you got the phone call, and what was your reaction?
I was in the car because I was working, so I was on my way to location, wherever we were. And we had it on, I got it on my phone somehow, and we were listening to it, and they said my name, and my driver and I were just screaming our heads off, and then the phone started ringing. Yeah, so that's how that happened the first time. The second time, we had a little party at 5 o'clock in the morning, and everybody, we watched it and celebrated.
Who was the first call from?
Oh my God. Probably my friend Mark Ricker, who kept calling. He's the one that kept calling me throughout the process, telling me which things I had been nominated for, because I wasn't paying any attention to any of it, because we were nominated for a BAFTA, which is the British version of the Oscar, and a few other things. And because I didn't expect to get nominated. I was never going to be nominated for an Oscar. I was doing props for just a couple of years prior to starting to decorate, so it was quite a thrill.
And then just last year, you were nominated for Best Achievement in Production Design for Steven Spielberg's West Side Story.
Yes.
Are you getting used to attending Hollywood's most glamorous night?
I am actually, whereas I was saying, I don't care if I get nominated again. I was already there twice. Actually, I was there 3 times. I went with my friend Mark, who was nominated for Ma Rainey. He's a production designer. I used to work with him. But no, you don't get tired of it. It's always a thrill. And you hear your name announced and you see it, and it's exciting.
Many film lovers like myself always wonder what Oscar night is really like. Are the ceremonies and the after parties as much fun as they seem?
Yes and no. The ceremony's long, but it's when you're there, it's different than watching it on TV. And also, you can get up in between the commercial breaks and go out and have champagne and come back in, and you're also amongst all these movie stars. It's surreal. You're wandering around, and George Clooney's standing there, and Meryl Streep's over here, and Steven's right. It's just it's fun. It's fun. The after parties are kind of mayhem. I think it's more fun if you win, because you're walking around with the statue and everybody wants to talk to you. It's still fun if you don't win.
Right.
But yeah, it's super glamorous. You're all dressed up, completely, hair and makeup. You're getting ready for 4 hours before you go. Yeah, it's pretty much fun.
I guess, as you said, surreal is the key word there, but it's got to be kind of being on an alien planet, no?
Oh yeah, it's a complete outer body experience.
Do you have a favorite moment from your Oscar experiences?
I think the best experience was the first time I went, and the initial red carpet walk, because it didn't look anything like I thought it was going to look, and it was smaller, and you're walking down, and all those people are up in the stands yelling and screaming, and they weren't yelling and screaming for me because they don't know who I am, but it was like they were yelling and screaming for me. So that was a memorable experience. Just all of it. Just the first time you do anything is always more exciting but the first Oscars was just an out-of-body experience.
You won a Primetime Emmy Award for set design for the series Mad Men in 2007. How thrilling was that?
That was pretty thrilling. That I really didn't think I didn't really think I was supposed to be there because, again, I had been doing props, which is different. There's set decorating is something that you get nominated with the production designer for an Oscar. Props are just hand props, like things that are held in food and guns and cars and anything that the actors are handling. And so I had been doing that on Sopranos. I was working on Sopranos, and I was the assistant prop master. And Bob Shaw, who was the designer, was going to design Mad Men. One of the writers from Sopranos was doing it. So we were going to do it during a hiatus. And I did a little bit of decorating on the side. And he asked me if I wanted to do it. So I did it. And then it was almost a year and a half later when the nominations came out. And he told me, he called to tell me that we were nominated for an Emmy. I was like, for what? I didn't even know what it could possibly be for because I wasn't paying attention. And we went and they said my name and we won and we went up on the stage and I couldn't even hear anything that he was saying. There was just like, it was like Charlie Brown's teacher was talking and I was just staring at the audience. It was terrifying and thrilling. And then I walked off the stage and we were walking past and we saw Gandolfini was at the bar and he congratulated us. And he said, "Congratulations to Bob. It's about time," because it was the first one that he won. And then he looked at me and he's like, and I'm looking at you going, what the hell is she doing up there? Because I normally did props. So I was like, yeah, well, I changed categories. And I almost quit the business right before then. So I won, they gave me a statue and then I stuck around and started decorating.
Why did you want to quit?
I don't know. It's not the easiest business in the world. And when you're doing props and you're on set and you're working 16, 18-hour days and you're sleeping for 5 hours and going back to work again, and it was dirty and I just didn't want to do it anymore. Mm-hmm. And then after I won, my friend who was with me said, "Are you still going to quit?" I was like, "No, I think I'll hang around for a little bit longer."
That's motivation,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I think it was a good decision.
Okay, let's backtrack a little. You were born and raised in Nutley. What street did you grow up on?
I lived on Pershing Avenue by Kingsland Park first, and then we moved to Rutgers Place. I lived up at the top of the hill on Rutgers in Edgewood.
What memories stand out from your childhood in Nutley?
It was a good town to grow up in. We had 1 million friends and all of our cousins lived here and we just, you could have a really fun childhood living in Nutley.
Were you always a big fan of movies as a kid?
Yeah. Yeah, my parents watched a lot of old movies and were always watching something and they got us interested in it. And I loved watching the Academy Awards, and I liked music from a young age. They listened to, the standard Nutley Sinatra fare. Frankie Valli and Sinatra was what was in my house all the time growing up. And we went to concerts at the Meadowlands, and we saw a lot of, not my family, parents didn't go with us, but we went to go see a lot of concerts because, the proximity to everything was, and we went into the city every weekend.
Did you ever think you'd make that your career?
No, I didn't know what I was going to do. I went to school for fashion design and I went to the University of Delaware because in case I changed my mind, I wanted to have, be at a regular college that I could switch majors. And I didn't. And instead of going to FIT in my junior year like I was going to, I wound up taking a theater class in London and seeing all these plays and then coming back and still not thinking I was going to be in the business. So I was working in fashion and not really enjoying it and kind of jumping around trying to figure out what my next move was going to be. And my cousin, I was at a cousin's bridal shower or something, and he said, I gave my card to my cousin's girlfriend at the time who was working at a prop house. And she gave it to somebody who came in looking for somebody to art direct it. She called me, and I had no idea what that even was. And I thought maybe I could get into the wardrobe department because I was a fashion major. And she hired me she wanted me to go shopping for fabric for upholstery and curtains. They were doing this movie. It was going to be in the Hamptons, and she needed furniture, and she needed all kinds of stuff. So she sends me out on this scavenger hunt. I have absolutely no idea what I was doing, but I did it because why not? And I came back because I knew where to get the fabric because of fashion. I just walked into the design building in the city and just started talking to people and asking them, you know, we need furniture and we don't have any money and we'll give you credit in the movie. And people gave me stuff. I don't know how I managed it. So I went back with all this free furniture and great fabrics, and the woman basically said, who are you and do you want to work tomorrow? And I said yes, and she paid me for the day, and then they took me out to the Hamptons, and we made this little movie that nobody ever heard of, and I had the greatest time, and that was it. I was in.
You were sucked in.
Yeah, I was sucked in, and I couldn't. I was like, people got paid to do this, and then she did this little TV show, so she took me along to do that. So I just kept learning as I went, figuring that they would find out I had zero idea what I was doing at some point, but I guess I was good at faking it, and I just kept latching on to people who could teach me things, and I did whatever I was asked, and I learned, and I just met all the right people and just kept moving up. And I got into the union, so then I got to do bigger jobs because you have to be in the union to actually work on the real jobs. And yeah, I propped, I decorated, I did commercials, I did music videos, I did little teeny terrible low budget movies. And I met a lot of people. And as I met them, they kept hiring me. And then I actually wound up knowing what I was doing, I guess. And here I am.
Well, obviously you must be good at what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not hard to get along with. And you have to be able to get along with people. And I think if you do a good job and you're not a crazy person, people tend to invite you back. And so that's what kept happening with me.
So you attend Nutley High School from 1980 to 1984. Fond memories from that time?
Yeah, I had a good time in high school. We had a good group of friends, and we had a lot of fun.
Any favorite teachers?
You know, I did love John Walker. He was a principal at Yannico when we were there, right? And then was he the principal at the junior high, or they just named the junior high after?
No, he went from being principal at Yannico, then he was the assistant superintendent.
Right.
Then they named the school after him.
Yeah.
Mr. Walker was a great
guy. He was the greatest guy in the world.
Absolutely.
He was the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At every event, I've never
He
heard...
was an inspiration. I mean, he was just an unbelievable guy. And the fact that I still remember him when he was the principal of my grammar school 40 years later. I mean, everybody you'd say his name and everybody says the same thing.
I have some photos here from high school that I'd like you to comment on, okay?
Oh, God. A really bad haircut. I haven't seen this in years. I don't even remember what a lot of this means anymore. I remember what some of the stuff means, and it's also stupid. But what, were we 17 years old? So that's funny. Yeah, and that haircut. Oh, boy.
What about this one? This looks like fun.
No, why did I have a feeling this one was going to come out? Yeah, this is 1 year we did this. Oh, high school. Yeah.
Well, tell me, explain it. What is that?
So we were the mascots for the football team. It was fun, actually. It was silly. It was something to do. I didn't want to be a cheerleader, but this was something to do, and you got to go to the games and you got to travel with them. So, and these were a couple of my best friends. So, but Janet and Dina were probably the reason I was there.
One last photo. What comes to mind when you look at these?
It's just funny because I can't imagine myself doing this now, looking back on it, but it's like I'm glad I did do it. It was fun. It was something stupid, something to do on the weekends. There was a whole pack of us that hung out together.
That must have been fun.
Yeah, and we all lived in this kind of in the same neighborhood. There was this whole group of us that lived between Satterthwaite, Edgewood, Brookfield.
Yep.
So we would, on Friday nights, we'd just all gather. And we would just all go out and walk around because we all lived in the same neighborhood, so we just hung out together.
After graduating from Nutley, you went to the University of Delaware. Once you graduated from there, what was your first job in film?
That movie that I was telling you about was called Jack and His Friends. It was, Sam Rockwell was in it, so there was somebody in it that we all know. It was a silly little movie, and it shot in the Hamptons. It was about these people Sam Rockwell and the actress, I can't remember her name, kidnapped this businessman, and they were holding him hostage, and I don't even remember. I never saw it because I don't think it ever was released. But I was hired as, I don't even know what I was hired. I guess I was hired as a decorator, but there was another decorator, so I did a little bit of everything, and I was on set, and I made some really good friends. One of my best friends was doing wardrobe, and we're still friends today. And the designer from that was the one that took me on to my next job, which was like a soap opera for kids called Swan's Crossing.
Was the movie set like you imagined it? Even that small little one?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. No, I didn't even know what to imagine. I had no idea what I was getting into. And I wasn't getting paid anything. I think they were paying me like $100 a week or something, but I didn't care because it was fun.
Sure.
And yeah, the most exciting day is the first day you're on a film set, and then they all tend to run together after a while. But it was, it sucked me in. I was like, this is great. Because it's like being you're in playground clothes and you're staying up late and you're with all these like-minded, arty people who just, I guess don't want to have a real job. Because we don't really have a real job. We're sort of pretending to be, or watching people pretend to be, and it's all make-believe, and it's silly fun.
And you get paid for it.
Yeah, you get paid to do it too. I know. I mean, my second job, I got $500 a week, so I thought I struck it rich at that point. And then it just kept getting better, and I kept doing better. I did a lot of bad jobs, but I did a lot of really good ones too.
You've had several different titles during your career. Would you mind defining some of them? What's a set dresser do?
A set dresser is, so in the art department, there's the production designer is the head of the art department. And beneath the production designer is the art director and the set decorator. The art director is in charge of construction and scenic. They build the sets, they paint. Set decorator is in charge of furnishing everything. And beneath the set decorator are the set dressers. So they're the people who pick all the furniture up, bring all the furniture in. They tile the floors, they put the glass in the windows, they hang the lights, they put the set together, they take the set apart, and they keep it all organized in the shop.
Okay. Property master.
Property master is the head of the prop department, which is in charge of anything that's handled by an actor. Guns, food, cars. If there's a food scene, I will usually get all the dishes and everything, and then they'll put the food. Anything, if the actors are eating it, they reset it. They're on set. They're the ones on set after a take. They put more water in the glass after you drink water.
Set decorator.
It's me. In charge of, once the set is built and painted, I'm in charge of everything else. So I do all the lighting, all the wallpaper, all the drapery, furniture, linens, hospital curtains. In a hospital, I have to do the hospital. If I do police station, I'm in charge of all the paperwork and everything that's in there. So anything that's in the set is what I'm in charge of.
How difficult is it to keep track of all that?
It's hectic. I have assistants. I have the film business. There's every department. There's a lot of departments, and everybody's in charge of their own thing. I mean, the set decorator job, there's a lot to do. And like on West Side Story, I think we had 150 sets, and they were massive, and they were all over the place. And I was dressing the inside of the apartment. I was doing the police station. I was doing the piles of rubble that were in the building, in the set where the buildings were all coming down. We would have like 50 trucks of bricks and bathtubs and pipes and garbage just brought in every day, and I'd place it, make it look like a building fell down instead of a bunch of random bricks.
Wow, that's number one. It sounds like a ton of fun. Number two, a ton of work.
It's so much work.
Yeah,
it's the kind of thing. When, like I said, when I was happy when I got a break, because I did 4 movies back to back, and you can't ever stop thinking about it. Mm-hmm. You dream about it. You wake up in the middle of the night like, I forgot, and it's a lot, but it's fun.
You've worked with so many legendary icons, films, and series. I'm just going to go down my list and tell me what comes to mind.
Okay.
One of your early ones was No Holding Back with John Bon Jovi.
That was Eddie Burns, I think.
Right. And
Yeah.
John Bon Jovi?
Yeah.
Do you interact with most of these
Yeah.
people?
On that one I did because I was the on-set dresser, which means I'm on set making sure that everything looks good in front of the camera for the decorator, which is a very important position actually for a decorator, to have somebody that makes sure that everything that you've done to make the set look beautiful while they're shooting and the decorator's not there, you need the person to just make sure that the curtains haven't fallen down or something. But anyway, yes, on that, John Bon Jovi's the nicest guy in the world.
Really?
He was so fun.
Any Jersey stories between you?
Probably. And Ed Burns loved Bruce Springsteen, and he wanted him to do the music for the movie. So we were, my friend Liz and I, she's props. They were about to roll, so we were sitting on a car just offset, and up walks Bruce Springsteen, and the two of us are just looking at him, and he came over to, and I was completely starstruck, completely, and he said, "Is Eddie around?" And I got on my walkie and I asked somebody, I said, "Bruce is here. Can somebody let Eddie know?" And then I said, "They're about to roll, so if you want to just wait." So he sat on the truck with Liz and me for the take. I offered him a chip.
Really?
It was so embarrassing.
Then you worked on a film called Double Platinum with Diana Ross.
Oh my God, yeah. It was a made-for-TV movie, and it was Diana Ross and Brandy, and she was, a Diana Ross kind of superstar, and Brandy might have been her daughter, like estranged. But the cool thing about that was that there was lots of concerts, so we would be in the theater, and Diana Ross would just be singing, and that was unbelievable. We had to call her Miss Ross.
I was gonna say she was kind of a diva, like.
Oh yeah, total diva, total. And I did private to prop master on that, so I dealt with her on a daily basis, and she liked me. And it was like running one day like a crazy person. And everybody, down to the producers, would call her Miss Ross, and I just said, "Diana, what do you want in your tea?" And everybody got quiet. And she just looked at me and said, "I'll just take some honey, Rena." I said, "Okay." I thought I was in trouble, but right? She was fine. She was okay with it. So wow. She was nice.
Then of course Pollock with the great Ed Harris.
Working so hard. I was the assistant prop master on that, and
that had to be a lot with all
my God,
and stuff, right?
It was the most intense job because he never stopped doing stuff and painting, and it was a lot, and we were working really long hours, and he was a method actor playing an angry alcoholic. So
I was going to ask, because he's as intense as he comes off.
Oh yeah, he's completely intense. He lightens up, like when he's not in the middle of it. We would see the lighter side of him after they would yell rap at the end of the night. He'd be great, but while he was being him, it was a lot.
Then you worked on 25 episodes of The Sopranos. Being from Nutley, that must have been pretty familiar to you.
Oh yeah, they weren't allowed to shoot in Nutley.
Right, that was a big deal at the time.
Yeah, and so if you notice, sometimes when bad things would happen, they would happen in
Nutley. I think Christopher shot the guy in the bakery.
Yeah, in Yellows, right? He was which is funny, but they were pretty happy to have Rena from Nutley come in as a prop because I understood everything in it, and they. Adriana would show up with an outfit on. Everybody's like, "Come on!" I was like, "No, that's pretty accurate." And I would do all the food. And when they would say, "Why is there always baked ziti and sausage and peppers at every buffet?" I said, "Because there's always baked ziti and sausage and peppers at every buffet." And it's true, right? I mean,
absolutely.
It's what we grew up with.
It was to a T.
Yeah. So yeah, I was a good person to have in the prop department on that show.
Tell me about some of the actors on that show.
Let's see. Well, Jim was great. He was the most generous guy in the world. He was in almost every scene. He was constantly eating something, Poor thing. He liked to eat though, so he didn't have any problem with it. And I was the one that was in charge of the food.
Oh my god.
He would.
How did he keep eating that stuff over and over?
Well, that's, you know, when he would do this with his fork, because he was like killing time so that he didn't have to eat in every single take. Because if he did 20 takes of something, he'd be taking 20 bites of it.
Yep.
And he'd eat a sub sandwich in the morning, and then have a veal parmesan, and then he'd have spaghetti, and then he'd have a hot fudge sundae, and it would all be in one day.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So, but he would come out. There was one day where I was manning the lamb chops that were in the scene that he was eating lamb chops, and he put salt on it or something, and the top came off the salt, and so I had a million lamb chops because we had to keep doing it over and over again. And between takes, he came out in his robe, and he went to grab one of the lamb chops, and I smacked his hand with that. I was like, all you do is eat all day long, and you're gonna. I have 4 more lamb chops left. You're not having one of these. He just shook his head and walked away from me. So wow. That's why he didn't expect to see me up on the stage when I won the Emmy, because I was normally the messy prop girl that was manning the lamb chops.
Which one was most like his character?
Probably Paulie Walnuts. Yeah, I would think. Edie was nothing like her character. A lot of the guys were a lot like their characters. Junior wasn't. Jim wasn't really. He was more mild-mannered. He was quieter. Christopher, no, not.
It really seemed like the cast was a close-knit Italian Jersey family.
Yeah, it was, everybody hung out together. We all went to the Bruce concert because Stevie got us all tickets. It was like 100 of us, and they had a party. And yeah, I mean, I only did the 2 years. There's people that were on that show for the whole time, and so they were definitely like a family. I showed up in season 4. I did 4 and 5, and then I made a few guest appearances in 6 and 7.
Being that The Sopranos took place in North Jersey, close to where you grew up, did you find it hard relaying that to your coworkers that a lot of these things that they were filming were pretty close to home?
But the thing is, The Sopranos is such a great show, and none of it is fiction, really.
It's not far-fetched at all.
It's not far-fetched.
Of course.
It really isn't far-fetched. I said it to a friend of mine. We went to a restaurant around here. She worked on the show too, and she said, "Oh my God." I said, "I know. This is what I was saying. This is why it was so real."
Then you moved on to Mad Men, for which you won an Emmy Award. Tell me about that.
That was, so we were on Sopranos, like I said, and Matt Weiner was one of the writers, and he had the show. And we had a hiatus that was about 6 weeks, so it was the perfect opportunity just to take the crew from Sopranos and go make Mad Men. We had no money and had no idea what it was going to be, but it was fun. It was fun to create that world.
I would imagine it must have been really challenging to try and recreate a time and place that took place 50, 60 years ago.
Well, I mean, that's what I do. I mean, that's what I do. But that world wasn't not that we did this, but the mid-century craze started a little bit before a bit before Mad Men, but Mad Men really drove it home. And so researching it was fun. It was also, everything wasn't as easily accessible as it is now. It wasn't like you can go online and buy whatever you want. So at this point, we're making an office that has typewriters from 1959. And I did the research, and Matt was crazy about everything needing to be state-of-the-art and exactly what they would be. So I found it was this IBM Selectric typewriter, which just came out. And now I needed to find, there was 20 secretaries, so I needed to find 20 typewriters, which now I could do in a minute. Then I found all the typewriter enthusiasts. I made 1,000 phone calls. I was in basements of every single stationery store in the tri-state area, cleaning them out, just getting everything I could. And I wound up finding 10 perfect typewriters. So I'd have the 10 typewriters when the camera was going this way, and then we would switch them over and put them on the other desk for when the camera went the other way. So it was, it wasn't easy, but it was rewarding. And I think I look at it now and I'm just like, oh my God, we didn't have any money. The curtains are so skinny, and there's just things about it that horrify me, but it did set the tone for the series. So that's, I guess, why we won the award. But all I did was the first episode. So, and then it went to LA, and the rest. Then they had some money.
How about Al Pacino in You Don't Know Jack?
Al Pacino, he was so very good in that. I think he won an Emmy for it. He might have won. He was great, and we got to meet Jack Kevorkian, which was kind of
Really?
He came into our office, and Al did a really good job of portraying him. And he was Al Pacino the first couple of days, where the bodyguards and the umbrellas, and then after about 5 days, it was just like Al's here, and it was.
Is he normal? Because he seems a little off.
Oh, he's not normal, I don't think. But he was a good enough guy. He was nice to all of us. We had a good time with him. Yeah, I mean, he can only be so normal.
Of course.
When
you're that famous for that long.
When you're that famous for that
Absolutely.
long, and everybody knows who you are, and you can't walk down the street without 1,000 people running after you.
Yeah.
I mean, we would have people sitting outside all day long with their Scarface posters and their whatever that they needed to have signed, and there was always paparazzi, and there's always fans, and you can't be a normal person if that's what your life is.
You're in a different world.
You're in a different world. Yeah.
What about The Help with Viola Davis?
That was one of my favorite jobs. It was we were in Mississippi for 6 months, and Tate, who directed it, had never directed. He did 2 little movies before, and he was friends with my friend Mark, who's a designer, who designed that movie. And we were doing You Don't Know Jack, and we were in Michigan, and we've been dealing with death, and we've been in all these creepy hotels, and we were in these horrible jails, and we were in Detroit to shoot this scene in a courthouse. We're in a courthouse in Detroit. And I didn't want to go in because there was nothing for me to do. So I said, I'll be in the car. And Mark had just gotten the script for The Help. And he's like, read this. Tate wants me to do this. I don't know what it is. I've never heard of this book. So he goes in, and 4 hours later he comes out. And I was like, oh, we're totally doing this movie. Because it was a decorator's dream movie. So we went. They didn't have any money. They didn't have any stars yet. And we went on this little ragtag scout right before Christmas with two producers and him and Mark and me. And then we just went and found this town of Greenwood, Mississippi, which was exactly what the book was. It was amazing. Like everywhere we went, I was like, oh my God, this is so good. I mean, we just could imagine it. We had the best time. We really had a great time.
You then worked on the James Brown biography, Get On Up, with Chadwick Boseman.
Chadwick Boseman, yeah. Nicest guy in the world. Another sad death.
Right.
He wasn't super famous yet at that point. And we were just watching him transform into James Brown on a daily basis, and said, this guy's going to be a gigantic movie star. And he was. After, Black Panther.
Okay.
But, I mean, he was so incredible as James Brown. He didn't know how to dance. Like, he could dance, but he didn't know how to dance. And he worked with a choreographer for a month before we started shooting. And he was unbelievable. That was, how many? From 1938 to 1989, and everywhere in between. And all over the world. We were supposed to be in the Apollo Theater, and in Vietnam, and in Paris, and in all these places, and we did it all in Natchez, Mississippi.
And Mick Jagger was a producer on that film, correct?
He came around. He came. His producing partner Victoria was there, and then he came down. I knew he was coming. Everybody knew he was coming because it was really exciting that Mick Jagger was going to be there. And I remember I was leaving lunch, and his car pulled up. I was like, "Oh, I missed him." Little did I know he was going to hang around for a couple of weeks. And then I was friends with Victoria, his producing partner, and we all hung out in this little restaurant in the middle of town. And we were sitting having dinner, and they all went up to the upstairs to the fancy room. And Victoria said, "Are you going to come up?" I was like, "Yes." So I went up and had the first dinner with him. And then, since I'm friends with the director, and Mark and I, we got invited to all the parties. So we were hanging out with Mick Jagger for 2 weeks. It was crazy. again, outer body, weird, surreal craziness. It was, but he was just, he was kind of, you'd think McDagger is a crazy person, but he's so mild mannered and he's very short, and he was, yeah, he was, we'd have these, we had a couple parties where there was singing, and there was a dance party at one of the houses one night, and yeah, it was crazy fun.
Then, of course, the film that you were nominated for the Academy Award, Bridge of Spies, starring Tom Hanks and directed by Steven Spielberg. Doesn't get any bigger than that.
Yeah, Tom Hanks is, he's Tom Hanks. He's exactly who you think he would be. He's the life of the party. Everybody loves him, always telling a story. It was the biggest movie I'd done to date. And Adam was an assistant art director when I was an assistant decorator, and so when he started designing, he called me because we would always be on the same sets together. So he called me to do this Spielberg movie, and I mean, it was the craziest call. Because that, again, just like being nominated for an Oscar, I was like, well, I'm going to do a Steven Spielberg movie? Who am I? I don't even know what I'm doing.
It's the little kid who probably saw E.T. in the movie theater, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's who I am. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And here I am doing this gigantic Spielberg movie. And no, it was a great experience to have. The first time I met Steven, the set that was the Abel's loft, the big loft space that was kind of his office. I had done this set. I finished it, and Steven came in to look at it, and it's the first time I'm meeting him, and he's looking at the set that I did, and he was just walking around picking things up and looking. He's like, "Where'd you get all this stuff?" And just engaging me and talking to me and asking me questions about what stuff wasn't complimenting me, and I've loved him ever since.
And how many films were you working with him on?
3. I did Bridge of Spies, The Post, and West Side Story.
What's he like?
Well, he's great. He's it's like watching a master class in film. It's like you're in film school when you watch him, and watching him direct is amazing. He's great with the actors. He's so good with kids. He knows, he comes in and he's prepared every morning. He's there 45 minutes before call. So we're all there 45 minutes before call. He listens. You can talk to him. You can ask him questions. He, last year when we're at West Side Story, I was doing a lot of the Q&As because Adam was in London, so they had me do them, which I don't like talking in front of people. And so they ask everybody on the stage questions. So at one point it was Steven Janusz, who was the DP, the costume designer, the editor, the sound guy, and me. And the moderator asked me a question, and I was prepared because they keep asking me the same question, so I had my answer ready. And he asked me a different question, and it threw me, and it was just a stupid question, but I was blank, and there's 400 people in the audience, and Steven looked at me and he said, "You remember, Rena? Remember when you told me about the linoleum?" And I said, "I do, thank you." And words just came out of my mouth, and I couldn't even believe it. And I don't even know what I said. And I got a round of applause, so it must have been interesting. And I saw him at the luncheon for the Oscars the next day, and I said, it's like, "You saved me." And he said, "That's what I'm there for." So I just wanted to thank you because I was dying. And he's like, "I know, I saw you were suffering and I had to help you." So
that's an amazing story.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
It really is. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Then, of course, you worked on Spielberg's West Side Story. That must have been incredibly challenging trying to update a movie that's such a legendary classic.
Yeah. I mean, nobody thought we were going to pull it off. Everybody thought it was going to be a disaster. I mean, even us who were making the movie was like, why are we making West Side Story? Because we all love West Side Story. Mm-hmm. So trying to make it what would I say, a tribute to the original, but we wanted to bring it out into the streets more. Like, the original movie was very theatrical. It was like it was a stage set, and we wanted it to feel like you were actually on the streets of New York, and you wanted it to feel more alive and modernize it a little bit. And I think we did it. I think we did it. And having watched the movie, so many times in my life, and building that, we were in Patterson. We actually shot in New Jersey. The scenes where they were on the streets doing America, and where all the buildings were crumbling down. We found a place in Patterson, New Jersey, that had two big parking lots across from one another. The perfect little building that we put the drugstore into, and then around the corner were all the streets. And I think it really gave the movie an energy that it was a great. I love that movie. I normally see a movie that I've worked on and I have to see it again a few times, but that movie, all of us we went to the premiere, and it was so good that we were just so excited when it was over, because you don't always love what you did, but after shooting in 40 different locations for that opening scene, with all those alleys and everywhere that they were running, and thinking, why are we doing this in so many places? How is this even going to make any sense? But he knew. He always knows. And he had the music in his head, and he had the cuts, and he knew which alley was which. I couldn't believe it. I was actually so amazed that turned out as good as it did. But of course it did. It's him.
You seem to be a very modest person, but with someone with a career like yours, you must be very, very proud, even though you don't show it.
Yeah, I have my moments where I'm really proud. I don't know. I don't know why I don't allow myself to. I don't allow self-congratulations, I guess. But I have had a pretty great career, and I'm not done yet. Still going.
You've lived in several different places, and you've made films all around the world. What brought you back to Nutley?
I've been in the city for almost 30 years, and I had an illegal sublet for 16, and I got found out. So I started looking for other places to live. And then once I got found out, I was on my way to Boston to do The Judge. So I just put everything in storage. And then I went and did Get On Up after that. And then I decorated 2 people's apartments and got to live in them for free. And then, so cut to 3 years later, I'm still homeless. My stuff's still in storage. And I couldn't find anywhere to live, and I came to visit my dad, and I drove by this house, and it was for sale. And I never thought about living in Nutley again, to be perfectly honest. But I came into this house, and there was just something about it, and I just felt like this was my house, and I knew what I could do to it. And I was looking in, all over the city, and in Nyack and other places, and the proximity to the city, so easy. Plus, I still have family and friends here. I still have people. And it just seemed like the right choice. I still spend a lot of time in the city. But, no, I love it here. It's great. I love this house. I love that Franklin Avenue is right there. I love that when I go away, I have a friend down the street who can feed my cat. And then everybody who lives in the city is thrilled that I have this house, too, because they're constantly here. I'm hardly alone. There's always people here, because it takes, when there's no traffic, it takes 20 minutes to get here.
You were a 2017 inductee into the Nutley Hall of Fame. What are your memories of that?
Well, that again was another one of those weird phone call or letter, and I got the letter, and I didn't know that that was a thing. I called one of my friends who I went to high school with, and he said, "You're getting in before me?" And I said, "What? This is a thing?" I didn't know there was a Nutley Hall of Fame, but cool. And so, yeah, it wasn't something I expected. I was just like, why am I being again, because I don't feel like anything I do is that interesting. So I just, being put into the Hall of Fame with Martha Stewart and whoever else is in there, it's kind of cool.
Were your parents alive to see your success?
My mother, no. But my dad saw a bunch of it, so that's good. Yeah, my mom would have loved it. Because the first movie I did, the two of them were just like, what are you doing? This is my father thought, is this a porn movie? Why are they not paying you anything? I've never heard of any of these people before. And I was like, no, it's legit. And then I would come home from work and I would be this filthy little urchin. And my mother's just like, I don't understand what this job is. It's horrible. So she died right before, I put her picture in. I did that movie, Autumn in New York, with Richard Gere and Winona Ryder. And we needed a photo that was supposed to be Winona Ryder's mother, who he had dated when they were younger. And so I put my mom's high school graduation picture in it. And she didn't want me to do it. She was yelling at me. She was like, you can't. And I said, no, it's great. You're going to be on. And she didn't make it to see the movie. But Richard Gere was like, who is this beautiful woman? And I said, that's my mom.
And now she's on celluloid forever. That's really beautiful.
I put my dad on the mantle in Bridge of Spies, so his graduation picture's there. And then Rudy, his dog, is on Sopranos.
Come on.
Yeah, Rudy was. Oh, this is funny. Rudy was this excellent dog that I found. I was walking down the street in the city and I found this lady with a cage of puppies. And I can't help myself. So I take this puppy out. My mom had just died. I said, oh, I'm going to get my dad a dog. So I get Rudy. So Rudy grows up, and he's the best dog ever. And we needed a dog on Sopranos for when, you probably remember this episode, when Tony meets one of his dad's girlfriends at the cemetery, Polly Bergen.
Yes.
And he goes to her apartment, and there's a picture of a kid with a dog. That's Rudy. So Steve Buscemi was directing that episode, and since I was props, we were in charge of animals, so I had all these headshots of dog actors, and then I just stuck Rudy in there, and I gave him the pile, and he's looking through, and he said, who is this? And I said, it's Rudy. And he said, and why should Rudy be the dog in the picture? I said, because look at him. Wouldn't you be sad if your dad gave that dog away? And so Rudy won. And so Rudy's pictured with one of the Teamster's sons. And he's smiling. He was so happy to be there.
Did your dad see that?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, they played it down at yesterday's.
Oh, they did.
The night that it was on, it was like everybody get quiet. And they did 3 shots of Rudy. They did a wide and then a medium and then a close up of Rudy. And everybody's like, yay, Rudy!
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay, Rena, it's time for our speed round. I'm going to throw out some questions. You just tell me the first thing that comes to mind. Favorite movie?
Coal Miner's Daughter. I don't know why. I love that movie. Godfather. Jaws.
Favorite movie you worked on?
The Help.
Favorite TV show?
I'm a tough audience. I like the show The Bear now. It's really good. I liked Breaking Bad was great. Sopranos was one of the best shows ever.
Favorite TV show you worked on?
Sopranos.
Favorite Jersey Shore town?
Asbury. I lived there for a little while.
Springsteen or Bon Jovi?
Springsteen.
Favorite song?
God, that's hard. I know the words to every single one of them. Not every single one, but how about Thunder Road? No, John Land. Sorry.
Rena DeAngelo, thank you so much for joining us on the Inside Nutley podcast. We appreciate your time. Take care.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Good luck.
Thank you.